7 o'clock, and I am calling this meeting of the Community Housing Board order. The first order of business is let's review and hopefully approve the minutes. So I'll just ask everybody to take a moment, take a look, and let me know if you have any thoughts, feelings, edits.
I think it's beautiful.
Great. Do you feel like making
to
a motion about it? Okay, so excellent, approved. Excellent. Wonderful. All right. Next up, Amber. Do you have any cool updates for us?
Well, you know about the soil test for the highway barn, so.
Well, yeah, I don't know if everybody here knows. So the next step was, we had talked about like what the next steps were. And so after the meeting, we figured out that then where it had gotten stuck was that we needed to get the test hole dug so we could find.
That was done.
I thought it was done too.
A year or two
No,
ago.
that was the phase 2 environmental.
Oh.
Yeah.
The soil test is next.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So that got approved. So that's,
Do we know when that'll be?
Matt put the request out to the firm that does it today, I think it was.
yeah.
Is it Miller Environmental, do you know? Because I saw them on the island today. And I'm always like, what are they doing?
Something I don't think it was Miller.
I don't remember. I'd have to look at the email. Yeah.
Look at the email.
Yeah.
But just on like the governor's housing compact,
Mhm.
Jerry had a meeting and he's not on, is he yet? Not yet,
Yeah,
okay. All of the 10 town supervisors from Suffolk County met with the governor on Friday.
Okay.
So she's like not listening to what anybody has to say. She's just pushing her plan through. So needless to say, it didn't sound like from that meeting, anyone was really super happy. Any of the supervisors were really super happy because she's not listening to any of our concerns. Home rule on certain things is not going to be present. I also went to the East End Supervisors and Mayors yesterday with Jerry and someone from the governor's office. What's her name? Ruth Ann Wisnoskas. She's the commissioner, CEO of New York State Homes and Community Renewal, part of the governor's office, I guess. She's going to send us some information that should from their website that has a lot more detailed information, but there's a lot of questions that people were asking. They're going to start doing the count for the 3 years for 3% growth starting in 2024. There should be a way to, if we've added housing over the past 3 years, somehow get that counted in, because the concern being is if we put in a building permit this year for one of the properties, that it wouldn't count, but we should be able to get credit for it. The way it's going to be counted is we're going to upload permit data to New York State, and that's how they're going to keep track of new houses. And if you have an affordable housing unit, it will count as 2 units instead of 1, except they haven't really defined what affordable housing is. So that's kind of vague and needs to be hashed out. I also asked about ADUs, if we can legalize ADUs or convert some existing accessory sleeping quarters into ADUs. It's not going to get uploaded necessarily as a new housing unit, possibly in the permitting process. How are they going to count those? And they don't really have that figured out yet. So there's still a lot of vagueness and concerns. They can't override Suffolk County Department of Health standards. But her focus is, if we build more houses, it will help. So the concern that the 5 East End towns have is, we've got a lot of multi-million-dollar houses that people want to build. It's not going to help community housing. So her goals aren't really tailored towards the East End. So still a lot of information to be had from them and see how it works out. If we make zoning changes, which she's basically trying to get communities to downzone so that you can put more units in, then you can have 6 years instead of 3 years to meet your 3% growth. But since we don't have a lot of sewer and water,
Public water.
yeah, we
That's
can't
new
really,
to us.
yeah, we can't really downzone because we still have to meet Suffolk County rules. So then I don't know what happens with this fast track override unless you get a developer who comes in and says, you know, I want to build out these 6 acres and do this, but it doesn't have to be affordable housing. So I still don't think it helps us. But anyways, so we'll see how it plays out. But I just figured I'd give you the report from yesterday's meeting and see, let you know what's going on. And when I get the information that's supposed to have more FAQs, I'll get that all to you.
And do we have a sense of like when this is going to be, like when this is going up for like a vote in Albany or
It's in her
in the
budget, and it
budget?
usually is voted on in April.
Okay,
But we'll see if it even gets passed.
right.
So, everybody's been telling the assembly people and the senators that like we're not for this, and we had our 2 county legislators there. And those like very, like this concern, this concern, this concern. So we'll see if that gets passed along and if there's any pushback for modifications. So
Cool. All right.
that's my update.
Thank you. Thank you. Is Gwen on a couple?
Yes, she is.
Gwen, I'm so excited that you're here.
So excited to see you, all of you.
Everybody, this is Gwen O'Shea. She's amazing, executive director of, what do you want to talk about who you are and what we know right now?
Sure. First, I want to say hello to everyone. Thank you for having me join you tonight, and a pleasure to work with Liz. She's an amazing advocate and voice for the town of Shelter Island and wants to do all that she can to ensure that all residents have a great community to be a part of. So it's a pleasure to work with her and to connect with all of you. I heard some of the earlier comments, and I want to sort of start my comments with, we don't have all the answers yet either. So just in terms of managing expectations, but I can share that we are happy. I know Liz has shared this already. Thanks to leadership within the town, we were able, and by we, let me take a step back, I mean CDCLI, which is a nonprofit organization that has been serving Long Island in the housing, community development, and financial stability space for over 50 years. We were established in 1969 and cover aspects from homeownership, homeownership center, down payment assistance. We have a lending arm, a CDFI. We do a lot in the development space, single family, multifamily, and we're excited to be partnering with the town here. In particular, this really connects with some of the work we do under home improvement and optimization. So we have a number of programs that we have for decades run where we work with homeowners who need to make repairs to their home, primarily individuals that are not at the higher multi-million-dollar end, as was discussed earlier, but rather residents that have lived in their homes for a long time, potentially new home buyers, that are just starting out. And through our assistance, we're able to ensure that properties, whether it's through rehabilitation, when someone first buys an older home that really hasn't been kept up to standards, we're able to lend finances there to allow those properties to meet health and safety standards, as well as on the other end of the spectrum for many seniors that live in their homes and are looking to age in place. We offer services around emergency restore, boilers repairs. We also do things around accessibility, again, so as individuals are looking to stay in their home, their entrances, their bathrooms, the whole property, works to meet their needs as they, maintain their life there. So this program, the accessory dwelling unit program that we are going to be working on with you all, is really a great complement to that. We are thrilled that the state had made this opportunity available. As I started sort of in the earlier opening comments, do not have all of the specifics. I can speak to the information that was put forward by the state in their request for proposals, which we, in partnership with the town, responded to. And it is an opportunity for the town to make up to $125,000 in forgivable grant funds available to homeowners who are looking to either create a new accessory dwelling unit on their property or require capital to bring an existing accessory dwelling unit up to code. And I want to underscore and bold the word code, because all of this work is done in partnership with the town, and the requirement of the grant is that the accessory dwelling units, those that are constructed or repaired that utilize these funds, are done so or constructed in a way that aligns with the existing town code. So that's the first piece that I think is really important to underscore. Another piece that's really important to underscore is this RFP was put out with the intention of creating additional permanent housing units. So the creation or bringing existing ADUs to code is not for the purpose of short-term rentals. There is a requirement that the new accessory dwelling unit or repaired accessory dwelling unit will be a permanent residence for the renter. And that is part of the requirement of the grant, that we as a partner agency with the town will monitor that over the life of the forgivable grant, which is 10 years. I think it's also important to underscore that while I started with, we'd obviously be working very closely with the town related to code, the next phase that we were talking about, and I think is very important, obviously, to you all, is really looking at the environmental aspects there, right? So while there is a financial requirement for this program as well, really working to support financially constrained homeowners up to 100% of the area median income. First and foremost is the property has the ability to comply with code, and that the property has the ability to comply with some of the environmental standards and requirements that the town may have. And then the third piece around eligibility is, as I mentioned, is this financial piece, that the homeowner themselves is at or below 100% of the area median income. There is no requirement for the income of the renter. So if there are teachers, young adults looking to move out of, a neighbor's basement and rent this apartment, it is certainly feasible that someone of a higher earning could rent that unit as a way to start to establish themselves and have a rental history, and then, potentially become a home buyer within the community at a later point along the path. So those are the general parameters. I'm going to pause there before getting into any additional process aspects that have been laid out by the state, again, in the RFP, but we do not have the contract yet. While the RFP was approved by the Housing Finance Trust Corporation Board, we have not received the actual contract to execute and move forward. But Liz and I thought it would be helpful to try to provide some greater context so we can start thinking about planning and outreach and engagement with residents that might be interested in such a program.
Yeah, absolutely. That's super helpful. We actually had a question that came up, and I know we had kind of talked about this a little bit, and David here on our board brought up of just the area median income and what number are they using? Are they using like Suffolk Nassau? Do you think that there's a potentiality, if that's what they're using, to go back to the state? I know Southold, Southampton, are also would be greatly constrained if that was the number.
So it is right now, the way the program is structured, or the information that was put forward as it pertains to the program, is that the household income is 100% for the county area median income. And I apologize, I don't have those numbers in front of me, but I want to say, for a family of 4, or even for like a single individual, I think it's like 98,000. And then that obviously goes up based on the family, the size. But I can certainly shoot that back to you, Liz.
Yeah, no worries. And then and then the next question was, is there, we had talked about, do you think that once we receive the contract, do you think that there will be, I'm sure that Southold and Southampton also, are coming up against this. How would we go about like kind of going back to the state to like say like, actually, can we use our town, median income or something like that?
So I think there's always a benefit to asking. I think it doesn't hurt to ask. I do know that the state had alluded to in the RFP and some of their frequently asked questions that there could be room for consideration. I think first and foremost, to your point, if that is something that the town is interested in, we want to use data to try to illustrate the reason for the request. So as we pull the data, on existing homeowners within the town, if it clearly demonstrates that, and the majority are at 110%, that, would be interested when we sort of take a look at the inventory, then I think we could use that data to make a request.
Awesome. Cool. What else, you guys? Do you have questions for Gwen about?
Do you know what the median income is for the town of Shelter Island?
Off the top of my head?
$53,011. So $53,000.
Okay, so that sounds,
I think it's higher for Suffolk. I was just looking
Okay.
at that, so
Yeah.
so maybe Suffolk would be the way to go.
but even there, the problem I'm just wondering about is you've got people who had to buy, you have to own the home.
Mm-hmm.
So a home on Shelter Island is $1 million, and I'm servicing an $800,000 mortgage. And my debt to income ratio is going to put me to a point where if I'm a relatively new homeowner, chances are I don't fit,
That's
right? And
Yeah.
so it's just like the math doesn't
Doesn't work.
it's nice, but who, if it's $80,000 a year, right, to, let's say for Suffolk, and maybe it's a little bit better. I just, if you have $80,000, do you have a house? That's your income. Do you have a house on Shelter Island to begin with?
No.
And so are we created something that's super, but just once again, Shelter Island is sort of an oddity and it doesn't work.
Well, I think that, I think you're right. I think it might not serve recent homeowners, that might be the target.
I mean, retirees, maybe.
Retirees, maybe someone who's owned the house or
They own it outright.
they own it outright
Yeah.
or potentially
And their
they,
income is very
Yeah.
little.
I
I
mean,
think
this
it's
is
a really good
That's a great-
point. I'm
yeah.
sorry, just that
Yeah, of
when you
course.
take a look at the data on home sales, right, over the past decade and how I think it's like they've gone up something like 63% in Suffolk County and Nassau County, that to your point, it's probably individuals that became homeowners prior to that. I think those that have bought homes recently, unless something has changed in the household, just to your point about debt to income and being able to carry a mortgage of such a size, I don't think the program is targeted as much as, if it works, certainly there's no reason it couldn't go that way. But I think it's really looking at, in particular, recognizing the challenges within our communities where many of those that have had houses for a long time and they're paid off are really struggling with the property tax increases, whether they're living on a pension and a small, additional retirement fund, that having this additional income and being able to get access to this capital is a game changer for a certain subset. Certainly, I don't think the intention was, all new homeowners.
And we have to find 16 of them. So,
Yeah, right.
Cohort is going to be,
yeah. We're not trying to get the, majority of the island to do it. We're trying to find.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, this is,
Right, but so if you assume that it costs you $300,000 to build,
Mhm.
and so we've got this grant, which is great,
Mhm.
for 125, and I'm $75,000 a year because that's the income, and I'm coming up with the delta, right? And, you know, so I think you're even narrowing it further. It's just, I, in my own opinion, I don't know what, I'd rather have a millionaire do it and get an affordable housing unit than say somehow the millionaire is sort of swiping money from us, because the goal is to get the house, we're not gifting anybody anything, because I bet if the millionaire built a $300,000 structure and charged market rent, and we do a market structure less 125, but you have to charge 1,600 instead of 2,500, I bet you get to roughly the same sort of numbers. So I'm not sure you're doing any favors, and yet you're sort of limiting the scope of people we can go to get the house built, which it seems to me is the most important thing, not.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's set by the state, you know, I mean, we can go back to them for as much of it. And I mean, here's the thing is my hope is that we can find somebody, right? If we don't find anybody, I think we just give the 2 million back, right?
I don't want to do
Is there
that.
anything that says we couldn't,
Yeah.
that's the only source of funds for this kind of a build? I mean, couldn't,
Well, this is.
No, this is just this one
This
program.
is just this one.
no, I
yeah.
understand, but if
Yeah.
this doesn't work like that, this seems like a sort of a high profile way to advertise the program. They say, okay, there's that. And then through this, you know, the new source of funding, you supplement that to make the numbers work. My father would always say, you know, like, he was very big on community housing, but he said, really, the only way you're gonna make it work is to have the taxpayers pay for it and know they're paying for it. And so he would have you sort of add a tax to actually pay for these things. Now, I don't know if that's the case. It seems like we've kind of done that here, but like, so we get 125,000 there, and you know, through the activities of this board and the, you know, the 0.5%, is that what we're you know, you add to that. I mean, there's limited properties we can currently build on now. We don't have the funding for all of that anyway, but ultimately, it sounds like this might be a quicker way to having 16 units out than the permitting process and the construction and all of that's involved with the town properties.
Yeah, I mean, I think my thought is it's both and, right? Like, it's just like there is going to be a super small subset. And if this is what we were counting on to solve everything, well, that's certainly not going to work. But I mean, I don't know. I don't know if we should send it back.
No,
Liz, can I just add
Yep.
can I add a quick point? I'm sorry,
Yeah,
just
of
related
course.
to some of the gap funding, because that is something that we
Yeah.
certainly considered, you know, is the 125 feasible, in particular, you know, in a place like Shelter Island, you might want to consider a separate modular depending on, you know, the parcel size. But we, CDCLI, we have a parent corporation and we have 2 affiliates, one of which is CDCLI Funding Corporation, through which our community development financial institution sits. So we are able to lend for community-driven purposes. And this is one of those areas where we would be able to lend with a very attractive, low interest fixed loan for homeowners if there was a gap, right? So we know that the county has additional funds available for septic systems, whether it's for, you know, repairs, replacements, or new units, that can obviously, you know, be matched with this funding, along with, you know, potentially accessing some of the capital that we have available to make it much more attractive to the homeowner, because clearly no one wants to create a financially unstable household. But that is another way to get some resources here. And I just want to note that the 100% AMI for a family of 4 in Shelter Island is in Suffolk, excuse me, is 126,000.
Great, thank you.
Cool. That's helpful. Thank you. You know, and I think that maybe goes to, it's just like, maybe that's one of the opportunities that we can take as a supportive, like, is trying to figure out how we can stack funding, right?
Right, yeah.
So like, maybe it's, you know, it's being able to look, we can use this time as we're waiting for this thing to look for, is there a little bit of additional funds from the county? Is there a little bit of this? Like, you know, one of the things we were talking about, like the Association of Towns, was like that a lot of these things, it's not just one funding source, but really to make it viable, you have to stack, right? And so maybe trying to think about what's in that stack. And I think that this ADU grant gets us a strong start at 125 plus maybe, you know, potentially some gap funding. So what are the other things that we can put in there? What are the other opportunities that we can, what are the other monies that we could stack into this? And how can we start to explore those and line those up in this time?
Is there a time limit we have to spend this?
Yes, there is.
How long?
2 years.
2 years,
2 years.
which is why I wanted to get Gwen even.
Could it be like, oh, like identify this person and then,
Gwen, do you know how that?
like, we have to just identify them, sign them up, or it actually has to be spent?
Right.
So we don't have the contract yet, but I would imagine if this contract follows similar state programs that do rehab and construction, if the individual is identified and potentially in contract, I think that may meet the requirement. So like, let's just say, and I'm making this up, we start in, the contract is executed and goes live in July, right? If 2 years in June of 2025, there are 16 people in the queue and have their contract signed, that would cover, you know, the requirement of the 2 years. And there is, in the language of the RFP, there is language about, you know, possible extensions.
And when does this money actually start?
When we sign, when this contract gets signed,
Okay, so we haven't signed anything yet.
right?
We haven't received
We
it
don't
yet.
have a
We
contract.
don't have it yet, which is why we're trying to have, like, it kind of feels, maybe it feels a little premature, but because there are so many things to work out, that's why I want us to like start thinking about it before the clock starts.
Right.
Right?
Yeah,
No,
on
and the
that.
point about funding the layering, you know, it's development on Long Island is so complex because of the high cost of the region. And so layering
Yeah.
funding sources is really the only way to get it done if you're not in sort of the luxury market.
Yeah.
Now, go back a half a step.
Yeah.
Were you saying that a similar grant is available to Southold and Southampton? They both have gotten it?
Yeah. So there's 10 that went out.
So, no,
Yeah. They got the same.
So-
Yeah.
wouldn't it be in our interest to kind of work a little bit together to try to address Dave's issue? Because I agree with him, you want a larger cohort because a lot of people aren't going to do it. So you want a large enough cohort so it might be above all these numbers. Who cares if it's a millionaire, as long as they're doing what is necessary to get an affordable house here. Now, I'm sure the state wouldn't agree that somebody who is making $1 million a year would qualify for this, but maybe as a group, we would have more success in trying to get a higher number so that we actually get a larger cohort available. So if we could work with the similar people, and I know you have those contacts, that could be very helpful, because I think you're completely right. I think, we might not reach the 16 because we don't have a large enough cohort. So let's try to expand the cohort.
Right. I think to Gwen's point, we can absolutely, like, Southampton is working through the CDCLI, Southold's through the Long Island Housing Partnership, and I know those guys. But and they're down to work together. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, their game. But my thought is that I actually think, to Gwen's point, one of the probably most convincing things would maybe be to go back to our census data, to speak to our town, right? To just say, well, homeowners in our town make this. You know what I mean? I think that actually, I think it's a both and, to bring that data to just be like, well.
But your numbers scared me.
Well, who knows if that number.
Right, okay.
Updated too.
Right, but we could pull census data for homeowners,
After 10 years, the grant is forgiven, but is the ADU, do we still
That's a good
keep
question.
it under the sort of 5-year renewal?
Well,
deal that you'd have today?
My thought is that is the, and Gwen, tell me if I start telling lies. Is that my understanding is that is the stipulation put on by New York State. So it's, but what we could do, and I think where the opportunity is here, is either in layering the funding where you put in an additional, right? You put in an additional covenant right there, or in somehow with the zoning, right? Of if there's some kind of like variance where they have to have like a community housing license to even make it possible to do the thing. And then by virtue of having that license, then it has to be kept affordable.
Then if you want to keep renting it after the 10 years,
Exactly. Yeah. So we
because you'd hate to lose it.
exactly. And so I think that there could be something in, like I said, there could be something in there where it's tied to some of the additional funding or somehow to the zoning.
To the zone, yeah.
Yeah, so my immediate thought would be something around the community housing license, right? So basically the only way that it meets code, or the only way that it gets through zoning is the community, if and that would be some of the properties, but I'm sure that it'll take kind of a variety of approaches, unless we could get something in the funding stack that we could restrict.
I'd also just add in, there is nothing that prohibits the homeowner from occupying the accessory dwelling unit. So just as in terms of, looking at who might be interested or eligible, if someone has, a larger home that, could generate additional revenue for them in comparison to the accessory dwelling unit, that might be attractive for individuals as well.
Well, I think that kind of defeats the
So
purpose.
No, but I think what she's saying is like, if you, like, I always think about my parents over in 25 Smith. Those farmhouse stairs, my mom has bad knees, they could redo the ADU in the barn. They could stay in the barn and they could rent the big house.
But at
Affordable or market?
No,
Is that
Affordable.
no, the rental does not have to be affordable.
Yeah. She said that before.
The rental doesn't have to be affordable.
So your parents are getting low.
The ADU, the grant that the ADU that they build does not have to be affordable?
No,
It
it
has to
does
be
not.
year-round.
The affordability is focused on the homeowner as a way to, I believe, the intention was to provide financial reprieve for homeowners that were struggling and could use the revenue of an additional
Okay.
dwelling
That was
to
not what I
support
understood.
them.
We're the other way.
Yeah, we want to go, yeah.
Can we impose that restriction?
We would have to push it up through the state.
Or
Wait,
offer it with a town
Zoning.
rider or something,
Yeah, or do something where you,
Would there be a way for the town to pass something in a code that's rifle shotted just to this?
well, I mean,
That would
the
be.
thing that here's the thing that I would think of, just to spitball it, is that maybe there's something in there where you could only get help with the IA system if you took a community housing license with it.
Liz, the way the town board was talking about it Tuesday
Oh, hey, Jerry.
with the ADUs was, whether it's the ADU or the main house, one of them has to be a year-round affordable rental.
But is that on the books right now?
No, that's what we're.
No, that's what they were.
Yeah. I mean, so that would be to the board to, if you could get, if there's something like that was in place, then that would definitely change it.
Yeah, that's what we're looking at doing.
Great.
Hey, Gwen, can I ask you a question? So what is the actual process if a homeowner wants to get started on this?
So that's part of what we have to put together, which is why, Liz wanted us to start talking as soon as possible. I can give you some of the more specific general parameters that the state has laid out in the RFP, which starts with sort of the pre-development activities, which is identifying households, that qualify and who are interested, right, in having an ADU either again, getting the capital to bring it up to code or to create an existing one. Then, we have to have our standards for eligibility and assess potential households, making sure households are current on their mortgage, looking at debt and affordability. Again, I don't think the state wants to see the funds used for a home that's going to go into foreclosure, or where the property, is taken over by an outside entity. So that sort of financial assessment it happens. And then there's a process that, we would go through, obviously with the town first, I think, to really make sure that the property complies and meets the standards that are set forth in your code for accessory dwelling units. And then there's, the process with the homeowner to go over the design, budgeting, permit, environmental assessments, and all the other due diligence to then secure the funds from the state agency in getting approval that this property meets, all of those requirements. And then obviously there needs to be the secret review, before funds are put forward or awarded. And then we would work with the homeowner and with the town, to really make sure that there's a group of contractors that are able to take on this work, have a process for contractors to bid on jobs, and making sure we adhere to a appropriate objective selection process, right? We want to make sure that we're able to get as much done as possible within the parameters of the requirements. And then there is the post-construction. Obviously, there's the construction oversight. We'll work closely with the contractors and the homeowner to make sure the job adheres to the scope of work that was put together. Work with the town and building and permitting to make sure that the work does meet all codes. And then work with the homeowner to monitor the property, for the regulatory period, which based on the state's requirements are no less than 10 years.
On current town code, can I build an ADU if I'm in the right spot?
Yes.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so we've got two houses that qualify for an ADU. And the town zoning board is somehow going to say, if you don't take any money, you can build whatever you want. But if you do take money from a program that's designed to enhance revenue, we're going to limit your revenue. It just doesn't seem like something we could do.
That's what we're trying to do.
No, I understand, but
Yeah.
that doesn't feel like something we could do.
Would you?
No, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I feel it, yeah. I mean,
Right, I mean, why does the zoning board have the right to say, it's a question of where the funds are coming from?
right.
And somehow that determines whether you have to be affordable or not, which doesn't seem to connect. I'd rather see the grant connected,
Yeah.
right, which
Yeah.
is then have the town have to do something, which I'm not sure how you connect those two.
I mean, I think that there's, yeah, I mean, I don't know, we can go back to the state and see what they'll say, they definitely, they're,
Grant be a little different than everybody else's grant.
well, we have to get them to agree to it, So it's just like, it's just like, if we can make a compelling enough argument to the state to change it.
Fran, I
Can I
don't
ask
really
another
understand
way-
what you said. Fran, excuse
sorry,
me,
go ahead.
I don't understand what you said. Why does the
Not me.
zoning board care where the funding comes from?
Not me, it's David.
It's
Oh,
David.
I'm sorry. Where the
Well-
funding comes from.
So hypothetically, you have two applicants. And one applicant is, you have two applicants into the zoning board and both get approved. Where on the application does it say, are you accepting New York State grant money?
Well, I think what the idea would be is that it would be the restriction would be tied to additional money. So whether that was like an IA, like I'm just, you know what I mean? It would be tied to either,
Broader.
it would be tied to you go to the front of the line for some kind of grant with the Suffolk County, or you get some other things with it. Or the other thing is that maybe, and this is true currently, if you can pass, I'm gonna say this wrong, if the dwelling, the ADU is to Suffolk County code, right, to Suffolk County water, like passes water sewer, but doesn't pass Shelter Island building code, the only way it can be legally rented is by using a community housing license. That's the only way you can do it, right? So that I think that there would be something there, which.
So that I think works, that's fine,
Yeah.
but I'm talking about two that otherwise would pass.
Right.
And now we're saying if you take it out of if your funding comes partly from here, you have to have that. And I in my own head, I can't tie around how the town zoning board can make zoning decisions based on where your funds are coming from.
They can't. It has to be tied to some other funding source.
But let's say somebody on Ram Island wants to build an accessory dwelling unit.
Right.
They're not gonna wanna rent it out to as affordable housing anyway. There are a lot of ADUs.
But I want to make them.
And we love this spirit, David. We love this spirit.
There are a lot, somebody on Shelter Island did do a study of all these accessory dwellings. It doesn't mean that people want to rent them out. They're for probably a long-term health provider, a housekeeper, family members.
Right, no, I
There are
understand.
a lot of them around the island, but people don't want to rent them out to affordable housing. But we're trying to change that, but with adding more. Most of them, people that are gonna do this are gonna be in the C zone area of Shelter Island, which is probably a third of Shelter Island. The problem with that is the lots are very small. A lot of them are half acre, 3/4 acre, up to an acre. So that's the problem, is
Yeah.
trying to get a variance with the 150 feet from the septic to the well. You can probably go down to 125 feet. That's about the minimum that it would go.
Okay.
Can I ask you all a question as you're talking about
Yeah.
where to put sort of the affordability covenant, for the lack of a better term?
Yeah.
What are you thinking? What AMI is affordable? Right? Like if this program says, because part of it is to really capture maintaining home ownership for those that are in more of the affordable, financially constrained space. So that's why the 100%. Would you see if you were to say you wanted to see an affordable unit? What would that income look like?
David?
Well, I think in my mind, it would be the sort of inverse of it sounds like what the program is, which is designed to have a cap on the amount of rent you can charge, but be sort of agnostic as to the income of the person putting it up. And so create a stock of long-term affordable housing for the town, and that goes to the renter of the ADU versus restricting giving the grant based on income of the builder, the landlord.
So it doesn't necessarily create affordable housing that matches the income of the household, right? Because you're saying you would just cap the rent regardless of the income of the renter.
No,
No,
definitely not.
That's not what you say.
No.
So I'm saying that hypothetically, so someone makes 126,000 and gets the grant. The way it's written today, they could charge $2,800 a month for that, if that's what the market would bear. And let's say that a two-person dwelling HUD limit on Suffolk County is 1,600, right? So I want it not to be market, I want it to be 1,600.
And the 1,600, for anyone to qualify for the 1,600, they have to have an income. Right, they have to have an income qualification also.
So maybe you could have some language around setting something to a certain percentage of the fair market rent, right? Like now the way that the state sets standards for, let's just say that the housing choice voucher program, right? They say the rents they will pay rent up to 120% of the fair market rent to open up the inventory of units that are available while not paying an exorbitant amount of tax dollars, into over market rental, right? So you could maybe set a fair market rent and then have a cap on percentage of income that's paid towards rent, right? Because that's really what's at the crux of creating affordable housing, right? It's a relative term. None of us, no matter what our income is, should be spending more than 30 to 35% of our income on housing. Obviously, the higher, your income is, the more room you have to go a little bit more to 40%. But really, in terms of being able to comfortably cover expenses, that's the rule of thumb. So that way you kind of, you cover the managing the rental so it doesn't become this exorbitant rental piece, but you also ensure that you are creating that affordable housing for whoever that renter is by not having them pay too much of their income towards rent.
Do you think that the state would be open to, I mean, I'm sure that Southold and Southampton are dealing with like a similar situation, or maybe the East End towns? Do you think that's even plausible? I mean, I guess we could just ask.
Well,
Right, we can, I think the question that, like, even as I'm saying, the challenge there, and it's not to say it can't be done, is that's a lot of pieces, right? And it's sort of like, who's managing that? Is that something the town, if you were going to put, any of the towns for that matter, we're going to put, funds in to do that, would you have the capacity to manage that? Is that an attestation from the homeowner, or is it a real review process, which, has its pros and cons?
Right.
Yeah, and Southampton and Southold are both, their geography is so much larger. They have plenty of opportunity to use this money.
Yeah.
We just don't.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to seek people to take this money.
Yeah.
Don't we have a system though? I mean, we have if you get the permit, there's a review, there's a process we already have for affordable housing.
In theory.
No, nobody's using it.
Yeah,
but
it exists.
It exists.
The machine's been created. Yes,
But-
it does.
Let's let Gwen talk about her program, and I don't want to sidetrack from what she has to say with all of our other issues. And I think we can't solve all of these things in one discussion.
What?
Yeah, it's going to take another one.
It was a long discussion.
No, I know. But like, as this thing is written, I think there are some things we could ask the state and work, see if we can work with them. But I think as it's written, it's still obviously a worthwhile program to be involved in and seek people out for.
Don't want to send off free money.
I mean, I think
We'll find the people.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's something probably about upping the income. If they won't change it structurally, then it's like upping the household, the homeowner's income. We could get that larger, and then maybe also ask if they could put. I would really want the affordable. If they could just put the affordable rent piece on it, that would be. That's what we need.
Not so much the affordable rent piece, that the qualification for the affordable rent piece.
If the town code changes around ADUs in general, that solves our issue.
Yeah, that is true. It could be solved. It could be solved either way.
Accessory apartments and
pressure.
ADUs are necessary, they have to be affordable, and that solves the issue.
Yeah.
Your microphone has fallen off the table.
Oh.
Can I ask that it's up to 125,000, what's it to be less than 125
I don't know what matters.
per unit? When?
Wait, what?
I'm sorry, you all were, the board was on mute there for a minute. I did not hear the question.
I guess my question is, it's up to 125 for new or an upgrade. Is there some barometer that could, let's say I was doing something new. Is there some reason it would be less than 125, assuming it cost me more than 125? I'm just trying to get at how you came up to 125 versus.
So just to be clear, I did not come up with any of this. We
Yeah.
responded to the RFP that the state.
Right, now I understand.
I think, and we had asked a similar question. I think they took a look at, some data sets. We can certainly ask them that. I mean, I think that's another fair question, right? If we were in particular for a region or a town like yours, maybe there is something based on some of the environmentals, and if we talk to a few contractors and get a quick scan that it's really not feasible for under 175,000, and I'm just making that, I think it's also a fair thing to request, right? We have 10 houses that are interested in it, but after doing a quick scan, I mean, this is what we're looking at. Is there any way to have some consideration for that?
Well, I guess my question was a little different. Is hypothetically, if it only costs 50,000 to bring an existing structure up to date, why give them 125? That makes sense. I'm just wondering if there are any other restrictions other than income that might limit you in taking full advantage of the program. If there's anything other than the income test, if I were building ground up.
So if those are really the only, as I was mentioning in terms of the pre-construction, the environmental, those aspects need to be reviewed, right? If it came in that the scope of bringing an existing ADU up to code was 78,000, the remaining funds could be used for more properties. I'm not sure if that gets to your question.
I guess my question is if for some reason I'm at the closer end of the 126 income level, might that limit my access to the 125? It sounds like it doesn't. It's the 125 is a cap.
Exactly. It's not prorated on actual income.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Can we make the 10-year period for rental requirement longer?
We could go back to the state, but not as it's written.
Just because I'm thinking, we do this and we've created some more rentals and then in 10 years they disappear.
Well, exactly. I mean, then that's the whole point of why you would want to try to put if the state doesn't go for it, then you want your additional.
Town to make.
Yeah, like that's
Yeah.
town would have to do it either through zoning or in monies tied to it, which is like, I think, at least from the jump has always been the thing. So it's like, again, that's why I want to talk about it now, because 10 years of additional housing would be great, but we want to keep it on the long-term affordable market.
But if you do what you suggested, which is change the town code, then you'd still every 5 years have to
That was Jerry's idea.
apply for it, and then you keep it in,
Yeah,
or you can't rent it, right?
Yeah.
So that seems like a great fix.
yeah. Agree. Okay, so the things that I kind of like, I'm just gonna do a little recap. I think that there's like things that are that I'm thinking about is like, is there any other programs that we could add to the funding stack? I think that there's also obviously waiting for this to come back and thinking about what we want to go back to the state with, right? So we first have to get the first piece, like the first offer to go back to like kind of talk to them about it. So I think it's like for us working on.
Is there a draft that we can review?
No,
she
that's
said
that's
there's
the
no
whole,
draft right
that's the
now.
whole thing. So we kind of probably need to get the first draft, but I think we have some ideas as to what our counter kind of proposals, what we want to go back with. And so I think that would be good for us to kind of keep thinking about that so that we're ready when we get that, we can send Gwen back with like, well, how about this, that, the other thing, what do you think, right?
Yep.
Are there any banks that like could get community reinvestment credits? You're
LIHTC?
talking, well, aren't banks required to make community reinvestment?
I mean,
amount?
Well, that's how we get the capital through our CDFI to lend,
yeah,
you know, in a competitive
that's-
space, but.
that's why Gwen's part of the party. That's why, it's because it's a community lending also.
Unfortunately, it still is lending, right? It's not, they, in meeting CRA credits, I don't know that they would, give additional grants here, but it's certainly something, you know, it's worth a conversation if there are one or two financial institutions that are big lenders, very connected with businesses on Shelter Island. I'm certainly happy to talk with them about the potential of, you know, this opportunity and how we could leverage some of their resources.
So thinking about what we would put in kind of like a counter proposal, for lack of a better word, right? And then I think,
As far as a counter proposal, I think it would be like fair housing. Federal does this. The New York State can add on to it. You can never take it away. Then the county can add on to it, but you can't take away what federal and state
Yeah.
have done. So I think if we put on
Yeah.
the town parameters, it can only get, you know, that
yeah,
way.
I
The
do.
state
think that
says, here's
there's-
the money, this is what we want.
Yeah, I
And we
think that
say-
there is a big opportunity here for the town to make this affordable.
That's how I presume it would be.
Yeah, and that's, I wanted to ask a question because I wanted to try and figure out what the town needs to do to supplement this. Like, is it already, can we have it come from the state, or do we need to take the steps further?
I think we would need to take the steps
Yeah.
further, like fair housing does, yeah.
Yeah,
As long as we're not restricted from doing that with this money.
That's why we're gonna need the contract.
yeah, that's what we need the contract, but I think it's a good, I mean, I think regardless, it's probably a great thing to take a look at anyway, but yeah, we do need that contract. All right, well, Gwen, I know we have taken quite a bit of your evening. Does anybody else have any questions for Gwen before we let her be free in her Thursday night?
Nope.
No, good.
Wonderful insight, thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you so much. I'm just so grateful, and I know we've got some kinks to work out, but I'm glad to have some cash to work through these issues with, which is a different place than we've been for quite a long time. So extremely grateful. So thank you so much, Ben.
Absolutely. It was great to chat with you all. We look forward to working together. We're going to take a dig into that, some of the census data as well, and see what we can get back to you all with, just so we have, you know, a place to start from in terms of, you know, some of the requests and analysis of what might be possible. So we look forward to working together. Have a great rest of the night and enjoy your weekends. Take care.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Liz, besides the person I mentioned tonight, has anyone else heard from anyone since
Yes.
this has gone out?
Yeah, I've probably had 6 people reach out
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So that's,
to me personally, yeah. So some of them are like not in the right zones and stuff like that.
No, no,
Like,
no.
it's like, but that was like kind of the hope was kind of starting to.
well, I mean, it's very early. It's, you know,
Yeah.
to get something bubbling up that quickly is good.
Yeah. All right, it's 8, we've got a couple things to do. So, South Ferry site update. Amber gave us the update. So where we're at is we're digging a hole, we're finding out about water.
Well, the water test, those I know were done,
Yeah, so we'll,
and that was fine.
we're,
Doing
whatever.
a soil sample.
Yeah, whatever the whole test is that Sherman's doing that's what's next. We'll keep you posted, either Amber, I, whoever finds out. So, but it's in play. So that's great. So we're taking steps. Review, approve ADU pamphlet. Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, I don't know if we have anything to share on the screen, do we?
Maria?
Take a look at it? No, I don't have anything like on my screen. I have what you did, which was great.
Okay,
Sorry, we should have forwarded to Coco to
okay.
put it on the screen. But we laid out the pamphlet. I think it looks good.
Does,
Got all of Stephen's items as
Yeah.
kind of a checklist. And there's sort of a more succinct explanation of all the requirements.
Yeah, I actually, really quick, I wanted to even just say that we talked about doing an FAQ for ADUs.
Okay.
And I saw that you worked it into the pamphlet. Like
Right.
a lot of the technical stuff, and it looks great. So I'm excited
Yeah.
to,
I do want to say, however, that I don't know, I'm sure you guys probably got the note from Duff about the ethics committee and how they have come up with their own like easy to read and understand explanation of what the ethics committee does and what its rules are. And they do that. And then the technical legal language is that it doesn't have to necessarily be included. So I think it's good that we have that, but I also don't see that it is absolutely necessary.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, well-
Let me forward it around to everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone should
So
see
check
it. You
your
did such a
emails.
great job.
There's
Yeah.
a few sections we need to fill in,
okay,
like on
Great.
that back part.
yeah,
With what information we're sharing and if it's gonna then, like go back to a web page or whatever.
that sounds great. Brian, would you, or Brandon, Maria, or would you guys be
Yeah.
able to forward it to the whole board and
Yeah.
then everybody
Weigh
say
in.
your feelings? And then maybe for next time, we can put it up so that we can review it.
Start printing it.
Okay, cute. I like it. Here's a one. Just wanted to kind of put out there, just acknowledge the town rental property next door is condemned. And, I guess I just, that's not something that this board has really been involved in, but it is affordable rental. And so I thought we should talk about, is there a way that what could we do as a board for future situations like this to, help avoid it? Or is there a way that we could take a more active role or help the town to set up again, it's just like kind of open-ended, but it just felt like something important to bring up.
I mean, what can we do other than maybe help minimize the consequence on the people there? I mean, what was the town to do on something that needed to be condemned? I mean,
Yeah.
given the asbestos and the other, I mean, you know more of the actual issues, but what I've heard, I mean, it had to happen. You couldn't,
Oh, yeah.
you couldn't continue. So the only thing we could maybe help with is how do you minimize consequences to the people?
Yeah, Liz, I think this is like a one-time shot. The town, bought this
Yes.
property with full intentions of acting fairly soon, and then COVID hit. We weren't going to displace anybody during COVID. So I think going forward, this is an anomaly. I don't think this will ever happen again.
Yeah, Jerry, I had a conversation with Amber about this. I think displacing those 3 people, say May or June, is not a good thing. I think the town should wait until end of September to do that, because trying to find a short-term rental in May or June is 100% impossible.
Yeah.
Everybody is now going for summer rentals and trying to find it's not going to happen.
Right, Peter, I think the town board will agree that, we gave them the deadline, but we're not going to throw them out if they can't find something right away.
Yeah, I mean, if you wait till the fall, they could find a fall/winter rental.
But by giving it to them now, they'll start the process. Because I know one of the renters that lived there when the town bought it was told that, in a year they, would have to start looking. She got out right away. So at least now they know that they actively have to get out. They don't have to get out, but we're not going to throw them out.
Okay.
Is part of the protection you're thinking of in the, what is it, every 2 years, the property has to be reviewed?
Well, I guess I was just, and again, this is just kind of like thinking out loud, but just like, what is the process? And absolutely, this is like this is a unique situation, right? But, you know, I think it kind of goes to thinking about how the town manages and upkeeps and communicates with residents as we're talking, you know, as we're, if we've got like, we're thinking about the South Ferry site of just like, how will that work? Like, how will there be a report back to the town board about maintenance that needs to happen, or communications with the residents there about, you know, I mean, what terrible things happen, right? You know, there could be asbestos and stuff like that, but how do we make sure that we're,
I guess my point was,
yeah,
we have a system in place where for it to go into the system, it has to be reviewed.
Mhm.
And then there has to be a constant review.
Yeah.
And condemnation probably is a result of years of neglect, not
Right.
an overnight thing typically,
yes,
right? So can there be a way for the portfolio of properties that we're trying to create, that those reports come back in a way so that you could head things off before it got to a problematic thing, so that at least that there's an information flow, so we can ask the town to put in maintenance capital or figure something out, so that there's at least a heads up, so we know 3 years or 4 years in advance of a problem.
yeah, and I think that's kind of what I think that getting to is like thinking about what that schedule would be. My gut is that we would probably outsource the management of any other future properties to like a nonprofit kind of situation to vet the things, but what are the guidelines that we want that we can, so that we can make sure that it's managed? Like what are our minimum standards? Every 3 years, we need like a maintenance review every.
But I think the building department has to review it every 2 years as it's written today.
Yeah, and so does that need
So
to?
can we give them a set of instructions and then they come back? If I'm at all right, then they have to come back with a report back to us saying it's in great shape, it's not in great shape, it's got deferred capital expenditure.
The property that's there is not in any way under our aegis.
Right.
And now the question becomes, what does it turn into?
Well,
I think obviously reviewing the property and what the town did to the property and, you know, maintaining it is a fair point, but like, we also, it's not the community housing boards.
Right.
Like, we didn't ever have anything to do with that. The town does. The town bought it. The town had the tenants, but it's not under our.
But is it subject to the affordable?
No.
It's right, it's not, right?
I don't think so.
Isn't that the only place we could really?
It's the only building that the town rents out, the 3 units, that's it.
Right.
Yeah.
And they bought it, I bet, from what I understand, is a long-term goal down the line with that building, the old,
Right.
the building department and this building. So that it would all be town-owned.
Consolidate the
Yeah,
campus.
correct.
We didn't have someone else's building in the middle of our campus, so if we ever get to a facilities master plan, which we look at how our space is utilized here in town hall, what our needs are, and I would love to see housing above whatever we do with this property.
Right,
Be amazing.
So it's multi-purpose.
right. Because at some point, we did have that 40 North Ferry as an option that we're thinking about, you know, when it became available. Now, you know, it might be becoming available, so it's, you know, something to think about as well.
But I think that one thing that Liz, that you're saying that I think is really important is trying to make sure that my concern that I have about how this all has gone down is that it makes people not have faith in the town in terms of how we will be handling any kind of housing. So that is one reason that I think the way you face the question is very good. What's the role that we can play to enhance the public's confidence in what we do as Community Housing Board and what we have planned for affordable housing? I feel like that's where we need kind of we need a sense of strength, really, so that people feel confident that the town can manage, and even if we outsource, but that the town can kind of manage the idea of affordable housing and wherever that's going to be. And I do think that there is, because of what happened at the house next door, I think people feel concerned.
I think you're absolutely right, Maria. And I think that there's really two things. There's kind of what you're saying, where I guess that's what I'm suggesting, that we think about a structure by which we as an advisory board review kind of maintenance requests, things like that coming in from the management, so that there's this extra step where we can kind of spend more time, because the town board is super busy, not that they're not doing it, but for future situations.
Yeah.
To go through and kind of just like make recommendations back to the board about, maybe to the town board about maintenance that we see, and also to have a forum. I think that was something that I also had heard of, just like have a forum for those, for future residents, where if they really feel like the building department comes in and says, oh, there's no issues, where they have somewhere they can go to say, like, actually, my water heater.
There are issues, yeah.
Well, we also have once it's built, we have to know who's going to manage it.
Yeah.
So until it's built, it's a moot point right now, so.
Right, but I guess I'm just saying is knowing that we're going to have someone from management to be like.
That would be their problem, that the tenant goes to the management, and whoever owns it or funds it, it's up to them to repair it.
Right, but I guess I was just thinking as like a recourse to the management, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like if you have a property manager and the property manager doesn't do something, then eventually you call the owner and you say,
right,
fix my water heater, what's going on, just so to even have that kind of hopefully you wouldn't need it, but just like another set of eyes, especially if we're going to have somebody from outside looking at it. That's kind of what I'm saying. And then also to Brand's point, I think that's also something to kind of put in the back of our head, is like, oh, that's going to be, that there's going to be the space there. There's, that building has to go away. There's town-owned property. Something to think about. Okay. Information from Association of Towns and Community Housing, County Housing meeting. So I just kind of wanted to bring back, I have a couple of kind of grant programs that I was made aware of at the Association of Towns meeting. Mostly a lot of the workshops that I ended up going to there were about honestly, the governor's housing pact. And Brand, you shared some great information about that with all of us on email. So I would just I'm not going to do a deep dive in it. It's not passed. We don't know exactly what's going to happen, but definitely, take a look at it. We'll definitely know more in the next month or so. Kind of what rolls out, but I think really just the thing to know is like there's some things afoot around housing, and I'm sure that there's definitely going to be something that comes out. So maybe there might be some top-down either resources or guidance or something going on with housing that we should just know is coming. Do we have any old business? And Joe, I see you there. That we want to talk about? Yeah.
One thing we discussed last time about the criteria. I don't know if anyone saw Newsday this week about the Oyster Bay claims moving forward, which, because they gave preferences, just unfortunately some more stuff to keep in the back of our minds as we do all of this. But those claims are moving forward on a state and federal basis.
Good to know. Good to know. Joe, do you want to come up?
Yeah.
I know you're here to.
Hi, everybody. How you doing? Joe Denny for a couple of you who don't know me. Most everybody here. So I own the house right behind the fire department, and I just think it's a good spot for have some sort of community house. I'd love to do something. I can't take on any more debt, though, so I'm looking for like grant money to make it happen.
Yeah.
So only make it do it, and I need to offset some of my costs as well. So looking to make rental income and.
Are you the little White House on Thomas?
No, right behind over here on Jasper, across from Hubbard's,
Oh, okay.
the ranch, not the big building. So I just wanted to, I just want to look for some direction, I guess, really, because I don't really know, how to get this ball rolling, and so I'm kind of coming to you guys for some direction here, and where's a good place to start, and what I should do, and hopefully, make something happen.
So you're 4 or 6 Jasper?
One.
I love how you know every lot. Sorry, are you?
On the pizza parlor side?
Yeah.
No, that's the big building. I'm the one next to that one.
Okay, you're married to Finelli.
Yes, indeed.
Okay. That seems to be a street where a lot of people want to do this. The problem is, like we talked, we'd love to see it, but it's the septic in the well, the proximity of that's where you really got to look and see.
Yeah, I think
That's the problem.
I think that would probably be like, the first thing is like looking at the lot. And then I would think, we had kind of had a conversation, and I think that, obviously we could take a look, but there is this grant money that, that we'd love to see if it's a good fit.
Where do we start then?
Well, we start with waiting. I don't know if you overheard all that. We're waiting for
Just waiting for the,
yeah. So I think that the first thing that we would do is, I can, by big number, so we can kind of figure out if you're zoned right, like that's step one, because I don't even want
Well,
to.
it's C zone.
It's C zone.
No, I'm B zone. Last B zone.
Oh, you are B zone, okay, which is still fine,
Yeah,
because that reverts that same setbacks to C. But it's all septic and well where they're located. It has to be 150 feet, your well from everybody else's, but you can tap into your own well.
yeah,
You have what you consider 2 bedrooms,
Yeah.
so you can build up to 2 more bedrooms with the
yeah,
septic.
Can't see why it wouldn't work.
right?
So
How big is your lot, Joe?
Probably about half acre. Yeah, they're all pretty much the same going down.
Yeah. So, I mean, here's the thing is it sounds like you're exactly in the right spot. So we'll basically, as soon as we sign the thing and we know more,
all right, sounds good to me.
it would come.
Your house was probably built in the 50s.
Yeah, 40s, and they did an addition in the 60s.
When did they has the septic been upgraded? 1974 is the cutoff date.
No, it's like an old brick.
Yeah, you're probably gonna have to update the septic, but
yeah.
again, you get
Well, I would want
you
to,
get
yeah.
the grants and everything.
Yeah. So we'd want to figure out getting you in for
Again, would he be limited to 4 bedrooms total? I mean.
Unless you only get the grant to replace, I think, up to 4 bedrooms if you want.
And I think
Over.
the accessory can only be up to 2.
Yeah,
But so if he's got 2 now,
you can get 2 more.
and he gets a bigger septic system,
The accessory can only be 2
Can only
bedrooms.
be
but if he
two.
makes the one he's in now the accessory and makes the other one the master. I mean, is there anything that says you can't do that? Like if I've got a, 2 bedroom? Yeah, there is?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know.
Well, that's the other thing.
That's something else that we, I don't know
All
about.
right,
Like
so-
making the new building 4 bedrooms
Yes.
and the
just
thing 2.
Call in first one, I don't
But
know.
then it would have to be a huge septic.
Making the old house that.
But I mean, it would be a 6-bedroom septic system, right? I mean, that's not that much more than a 4-bedroom.
The grant
System.
money for WQI, which can kick in, doesn't allow for
Yeah.
additional growth.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Keeping the 4-bedroom.
Would keep you in would keep you in that grant, keep you in the grant zone.
So there's like so
I
many
gotcha.
moving
Yeah,
parts.
yeah,
that, like,
Okay.
But even a 2-bedroom ADU would be still,
Yes.
I mean, you could still get some rental income on that, right? So it would just be figuring out how to how to do it. So I think it'd be like, yeah.
Yeah, the Hoffmans did it across the street, a little bit down.
Yeah.
That house is beautiful.
Okay.
What they do in the back.
Yeah, it's bigger than the front one.
Excellent. All right.
All right, well, I will let you know as soon as we get this.
Excellent.
But again, the problem there is Suffolk County approving it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
We'll do everything we can to help out, Joe.
Yeah, we will. Well,
All right, guys.
all right, well, thanks for coming down and sitting through our,
Okay.
All right.
So Jess.
all
Thanks.
right, thanks. There you go.
Now, in that situation, from a tax perspective, if he gets grant money to build the unit, how much can he depreciate?
Well, it's a forgivable grant, so technically it's a loan up.
I know, that's why I'm asking. I
Yeah,
think that's a complex question.
it is complicated.
I
I don't know if you would want, I don't know if you would want to, because it would erode the basis, but
Yeah, but
There's that.
The
But you-
basis is whatever, that's one,
Yeah, but the-
125, right?
Right, but you, at the same time, you might want that depreciation to offset the incomes for your.
right, I mean, here's the thing is I don't know. You can tell me, but I don't know if I would consider the grant money.
Well, the septic system is considered grant money.
No,
It just ruled again.
Right.
So the grant money, so it would be, I don't know how that would be taxed. I mean, they would like 1099 for the grant at the end for the forgiveness of the debt?
I don't know.
I would assume that that's what they would.
Yeah, I have,
So at that point,
I
I
know
mean,
to ask the question, I don't
yeah,
have.
no, I mean,
the answer.
I would assume that that's the way they would treat it. So then if that was the case, then basically they could depreciate
Yeah,
it.
the IRS did say it was taxable income.
On
For
forgiveness.
the AD, for this grant program?
Yes,
Oh,
for the
For the
septic.
stuff, yeah.
no, they said it's not taxable. income.
I think they just reversed it again. I just read that.
Really, I haven't seen that.
In which case, if it was taxable income, then you would absolutely want to depreciate to offset that potential tax burden.
But I mean, I think, again, going back to the last meeting, I think some of these tax questions are things that people will come and ask at a certain point.
Yeah, I mean,
Talk to your tax
Yeah,
accountant.
exactly.
Yeah, but
Not about tax.
No, I,
Because they'll say, you said.
no, I agree with that, but I
I mean,
think.
we could do, once we see it, we could give some general
Right.
information, but we're never gonna
But
kind
we have to qualify it at all times. I totally, yeah. We're not giving. We're not taking-
my eyeballs, but I won't touch it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. But yeah, no, there's gonna be definitely some stuff like that. But I think that there's,
How do you, even have it just to direct them, but
yeah,
yeah.
we're a couple steps away from,
But would it be as simple as the land basis is zero, it cost me 300 to build, I got 125 back, so I'm in it at X, and a certain amount of that is machinery, and I can appreciate that over this much, and the building.
I don't think it's as simple as that, because here's the thing is like, there's how much you're in it for, and then it really depends on what the IRS treatment of the grant money is.
But I'm discounting I'm saying the IRS treats it as a gift, right? So my basis isn't 300, it's 275, right? It cost me 300.
Yeah, yeah.
I have 270, I'm in it for 175. And I can appreciate that because I can't appreciate the land.
Yeah.
And then I can depreciate ovens and refrigerators faster than I can,
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's,
Right.
but it's gonna be something along those lines.
yeah, yeah. And here's the thing is I think that there's even something where it's like, if it's a forgivable grant that eventually you get like a 1099 for, then you could even add back in the 125 to your basis,
Right.
depending on what the tax treatment is, which we would have to see.
And I may have under depreciated historically, and so
Right.
maybe that makes up for the 125. Is that 125 income? Is forgiveness of debt ordinary?
It's going to depend, but yes, it could be considered. So in that case, if you had the forgiveness of debt, then you would absolutely need to depreciate even just to offset that.
Yeah.
Right? So you're not going to, so you won't reap, even if you're using the depreciation when you get it's going to, if you do it the right way, those will zero each other out. You're really just only going to enjoy the benefit of the 175 depreciation.
But at the end of the day, you don't want tax stuff scaring people away. And you have to, you have to direct them back to their own tax advisors. But whatever we can do to make them feel somewhat comfortable is helpful.
Situation is different.
Different, yeah.
Wildly different. All right.
New business?
New business, thank you. Any new business?
No.
No. Does anybody,
Julie Lane.
Julie. Any questions for us?
I'm fine, thank you very much.
All right. Does anybody, do I make the motion?
No, you can't.
Make a motion to end the meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
I second.
I second that. Meeting adjourned.